Good afternoon. I'm Monica Trauzzi from the E&E News newsroom in Washington, D.C. This afternoon, President Trump announced in a Rose Garden conference that the U.S. would withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. And joining me for analysis and details on what we might see next on all of this are E&E News reporters Emily Holden and Jean Chemnick. Thank you both for joining me. So, Jean, this is being pitched by the administration as an economic decision, and what we heard from the president is that the U.S. will withdraw, but he sort of left this door open for renegotiating or entering a new treaty entirely. Is the international community open to something like that?
No. I mean, I've heard from a couple of people that no, Paris is non-negotiable. It took, more than 2 decades to get to Paris from the Rio Earth Summit in 1992. A lot of deal making, a lot of false starts. The idea that they're going to be able to renegotiate it in the next few years, as the U.S. is pulling out, and as everyone is kind of upset with the U.S. for that, and many countries are, seems pretty far-fetched.
So essentially, we can just read this as the U.S. withdraws.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, he decided to tack that on, probably to throw something to his advisors and his daughter who pushed to stay in Paris. But in practical terms, the opportunities for renegotiating are not very great.
What comes next?
Well, I mean, presumably he'll officially inform the UNFCCC, which is the UN negotiating body that deals with climate change, that the U.S. is leaving. That starts a 3-year cooling off period, and then the U.S. or another country can formally withdraw 4 years after they joined, which in this case is going to be 2020.
Emily, right behind us here in our newsroom, there's some intense fact-checking going on of the president's speech. In Climate Wire tomorrow, we can expect to read all about that.
Absolutely. I think we have a list of at least 6 or 7 items that we've found questionable that the president listed, including some of the numbers that he suggested for the job impacts and the economic impacts of the Paris Agreement, which he got from a report by a group called NERA, which I believe was done for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and another conservative group.
Jean, how does this impact diplomatic relations on the whole?
Well, especially with Europe. This is a big blow. I mean, Trump wasn't all that popular coming out of the G7 last week. The group of 7, big industrialized countries that met in Sicily. This was a wedged issue. Climate change was, and so was trade. And after that, especially Macron in France and Merkel in Germany were quite frustrated with him. This will just exacerbate that. And for a lot of countries, this will be something that signals a lack of interest in working together on global issues. There will be some countries that really don't care. So it depends on the country, yeah.
Emily, how does this impact what we see on the state level? I mean, states, in many cases, are continuing to act on emissions reduction. Does this play at all?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of states and cities and environmental advocates saying we're going to do everything we can to try to fill that gap. But what you're looking at right now, the U.S. under President Trump's policies, current and planned, is pretty far from meeting those goals, and it would be difficult to do unless you're having a very optimistic outlook about the power sector and how quickly renewable power could grow and energy efficiency could grow.
All right, we'll end it there. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Very interesting stuff. And thank you for joining us.